Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollok. Alison McConnell joins me as well, and today we have Motherwell's Bailley Collins on the sofa with us as well. Bailley, thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the fallout from the final yesterday. Did you watch the game? Yeah,
I did.
What was your thoughts?
I think Partick were unlucky. I think they had a game plan, and that was obvious that they had a game plan. I think they were unlucky to lose out. I think Rangers played well. It's always going to be difficult playing against a full-time team. I think Partick goal was a very good strike from Rachel Donaldson. But yeah, Rangers came out on top, and it's always going to happen when you're playing the top sides. It's always difficult, but the Partick played well and they gave it their all, which is all they can do.
I think that's what Brian Graham said was important for them, Alison, that they went for it a bit. They didn't hold back or sit in.
Yeah, I think they did. I thought they were scunnered just about at that third goal, just the timing of it and the nature of it. Just it came, into the second minute of added time, almost right before the half-time whistle. And I think that third goal just changed the complexion entirely of the game. And yeah, I thought they were admirable in their approach to start off with. You forget, Liv McLaughlin had an effort off the line just prior to Mia McCauley opening the scoring. I thought they set up. I thought they were bold in their approach. I thought they were fairly adventurous. Inevitably, when Rangers get that fourth goal, you see that they just shore it up. They change the back line. They go to a back five, and Brian admitted himself, at that point, there's nearly a good 35 minutes still to be played when Rangers are 4-0 up. It's just a case of managing the game, seeing it out, and not wanting to bring on any further goals. He used the word embarrassment, and you could understand why there would be a fear of that happening, just given how dominant Rangers were at that point in the second period, and obviously the superior levels of fitness given the fact that they're full time. But I think Partick Thistle deserved a lot of plaudits for how they approached the game and for the first half and how they went about their business.
Well, despite that defeat, let's hear what the Partick Thistle boss Brian Graham had to say.
We'll try to close the gap, as we said, but until the financial gap is closed to what we want it to be, then it's going to be extremely difficult. The top three have got extremely good budgets, especially compared to our budget, and they're full time, and you can see how fit they are, you can see how strong they are with the gym work that they're doing. And my girls are working sometimes 96 o'clock and then running to training and running late. But you've seen the heart and desire they had, especially first half. I'm so proud of them with that first half performance, and as I said, I'm just bitterly disappointed for them today because I wanted them to have the success.
That's the big thing, Bailley, isn't it? You could see towards the end that the fitness, the gap between the two teams.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a challenge when you play top three. Like midweek games especially, it shows a lot as well. They've had the full day to prepare, whereas the other teams out with the top three, they're coming from work. They've not had the right time to prepare, and it shows. But at the end of the day, all you can do is give your all. And if you do that, and if the majority of the players across the pitch give that, then you've got a good chance. But yeah, it's always difficult, and it shows to the latter stages of the game.
Is that the biggest challenge that you guys feel at Motherwell whenever you come up against the top three?
Yeah, definitely. I think every team will probably find that the most challenging part. Just the difference in levels, that what they get compared to what everyone else gets. It's difficult, but we're here for the challenge, and on behalf of every team, we want to compete, and that's the level that we want to be at and strive to be at. So we'll do whatever it takes to compete with the top three.
Do you see a day where all teams will be full-time, being able to compete on a level playing field?
I think that's the aim for the whole league, is to get to that level. Teams are doing it. You see each season more teams are putting more budget and more interest into the women's team, and it's showing from it. The likes of Partick, they've had a lot more investment. Same with Hibs and Hearts, more investment, and they're bringing in, the likes of Hibs and Hearts, they're bringing in players from abroad now, which it's good for the league. It's promising. It's showing that people abroad are wanting to come play in the Scottish League because it's a good level, and players are being challenged each week no matter how they're playing. So yeah, definitely.
And Rangers do obviously have that financial benefit. Jo Potter extremely happy after her girls got the victory.
I've said it from day one. There's winners in that group, and it's making them believe that they are the best, because I believe they are. There's not many people that I'd swap for anybody in that room as people and as players, and that's big for me. That they're such a together group. I've said it many times. It can seem cliche at times that you say the togetherness is there, and it actually really is. There's no real cliques, there's no real groups. They all actually enjoy each other's company. So I think that's big And you can see that today. I think you see Kirsty Howart's been out for such a long time. She walks on the pitch and every single player is clapping her. They're all behind her, they're all applauding her. And I think that just shows the group that we've got and how together they are and how they can really stick in together through this last period of the season.
Could you feel that set a light for the potential treble, Alison?
Yeah, I think it certainly gives rise to that possibility now. I do think psychologically that was a really important trophy for Rangers to claim yesterday, the first, obviously, of the season, a first for Joe Potter in a managerial capacity. And I think now, just going into the business end of the season, they obviously have their noses in front at the summit of the SWPL. They've got a point there of a cushion. It's very, very tight. A semi-final still to look forward to against Celtic at Hampden next month. I think Rangers have been the most consistent team across the course of this campaign. We've spoken about it regularly on this programme, and it's now really interesting to see how they deal with the pressure of the run-in. But I think yesterday's result, the manner of the victory, the way they claimed the trophy, I think that could be interesting, the kind of effect that has now on the squad psychologically going forward.
What does that say about them, Bailley, that when Partick Thistle got that equaliser, Rangers were perhaps rattled for a couple of 5-10 minutes, but then come back and say, no, get ourselves back in this game here?
Yeah, I think it just shows the experience of the players that they have within the squad, that maybe the younger ones, they might be a bit rattled. I think I certainly would be if I was in the final and the other team went and scored. But I think it shows the experience and the composure within that squad, that they can calm themselves back down, get back to playing the football that they know they can play and that they do well, to then get that second goal and then get the third goal just before half time. I think that then just probably calmed the nerves and took the pressure back off them.
Yeah, I think too, it's a team of international players. There's players who have been exposed to the very highest level throughout that squad, who have competed before in cup finals, who have won titles, who have represented their country, scored goals on the biggest stage. And I think when it gets to a final like that, I think that's when you see that come to the fore. That's when you get a sense of it. And I actually thought when it did go to one each, I didn't think there was a sense of panic. I thought it was very early in the game. I think that there was an element of Rangers that they knew, you just play to the game, play to your strengths, and the goals will come. And as I said, I thought Partick Thistle were admirable in their approach. I think there's unquestionably a huge gulf in resources between two clubs, between the standards of the club, between the players that they're able to attract in, given the finances and the full-time element. But I think Rangers were very much within themselves. I think they knew they could go up to a higher level.
And another record-breaking crowd as well, Alison, we had at Tynecastle at the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous to see. I think 4,786 inside Tynecastle yesterday. I think it helped that there was a common sense approach to the game. You could buy a ticket right up until kick-off. I think tickets were very competitively priced. I think a nice day always helps too. I think you look out the window and there's a bit of sunshine, maybe just encourages people to get along. But I think it suggests and points to a continued slow growth within the Scottish game. I think people would be well aware that there's still a significant body of work to be done in that respect, and sustaining interest and pushing the game and comparing crowds to what we see obviously south of the border. But certainly it's a step in the right direction. I think it's an encouraging crowd, and it's now about harnessing that and trying to continue the growth of the game.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to Rangers on securing the Sky Sports Cup. They're back in league action this week. Let's have a look at the fixtures coming up. We have Partick Thistle taking on Hearts, Montrose against Hamilton, Rangers will face Hibernian, Dundee United take on Spartans, Motherwell against Aberdeen, and Glasgow City will face Celtic. Bailley, you going up against your former team this weekend?
Yes.
What's your thoughts ahead of this one?
It's a big game for us. Obviously they've had 2 over of us before the split, so I think our challenge is to try to close that gap. They're 6 points ahead of us just now. Sunday's an important game for both teams, but yeah, we're definitely looking to try close that gap, and obviously I want to get one back over on them. But yeah, it's a big game for both clubs.
You mentioned the split there. What's your thoughts on that and the structure of the games?
There's a lot of games to be played within that short period of time, especially come to the closing weeks. I think there's a lot of midweek games. Maybe for the bottom 6 it's a bit of a challenge, especially midweek games in the evening. I know we've got Spartans away, and some of the other clubs have got the further distance games to go, so that's always a challenge. But yeah, it's got to be done, doesn't it? And we'll take each game by it goes, and we'll try to get as much as what we can out of each game.
Was this always the plan for you? Was it always football you had in your sights?
Yeah, football's always been my thing since I was about 8 years old. I started when I was 8 at Aberdeen, and then I started playing for my brother, who's actually younger than me. So he's kind of started to get me going, and then from that it's just been football always.
Who was your heroes? Who was your idols growing up?
I'm a big Tottenham fan, so Gareth Bale was my idol. And then coming into the women's game, it was Morecambe Little. I think that's your typical Scottish idol for most players. I just love watching football. So Gareth Bale was probably my one until he retired. And then Kim Little.
Yeah.
So.
Are you the sort of player who sets targets at the start of a season, or goals you want to score, that sort of thing?
I just take it game by game. If I score, I score. If I don't, I don't. It's always nice to get on the score sheet, isn't it? But yeah, I just want to play as much football as I possibly can, to get as many minutes as I can, to always push myself and try to be better. That's my aim.
Talk to us about Paul Brownlee then and Leanne Crichton and the work that they're doing at Motherwell.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes as well. They're always pushing for things for us, trying to get the best for us and for the club. Leanne's a winner. It's her mentality. Paul's the same. They set standards. We have to meet them every week, and we do. We're always pushing to get better as a club, as a team, and as individuals as well. They're always trying to do something to get the best and get the most out of every single player that we've got in that dressing room.
You've also had experience at international level with under-17s and under-19s. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was unexpected actually. I was playing at Aberdeen 19s at the time, and I got the call up to the 17s. We went away to Pinatar, and we played and got my first cap against Sweden, and then we played 3 games there, and then moved up to 19s, and then we went to Wales, and then we played in the qualifiers, and then COVID hit. In between that gap of 17s and 19s, so that was difficult because that kind of took away a year of international football, but it done that to everyone, didn't it? So yeah,
you'd have momentum that's interrupted though at that sort of key stage.
Yeah, because the 17s and the 19s both were in the Euro qualifiers, but because of COVID, both age groups moved up, which meant the 19 squad who made those qualifiers were then too old. So then the 17s stepped up to the 19s, and then what were the 17s were then the 16s that moved up. So everyone was kind of disjointed a wee bit. But
and then you're in limbo almost a bit then.
Yeah, so out of international football at the moment, but the target is for the 23 squad at some point. That's what I'm pushing towards and what I'm striving towards, to get back into that international setup.
It's such an unusual scenario to find yourself in.
Yeah, it is, but it's, you just got to deal with it and get on with it, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. The split obviously has took place, Alison, in the bottom half. It's just as tight as the top half as well. Are you a fan of how the setup is?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think what it does is create live games, if you want. I think there's not maybe so many games that don't have something attached to them, they don't have a meaning for something. I think that's helpful. I think both at the top end and at the bottom end of the table last season was particularly fraught, particularly obviously at the top of the table when it went to a photo finish almost on the final day of the season. And I think it's helpful to have it. I think it just generates some interest in the league. I think it helps to keep things intriguing to a point, and I think it gives players an edge in games. It's not like, I think you've got something to play for. Almost every team still has something to play for, which I think is good. Do you
find that it's got more competitive this season?
Yeah, definitely. I think more clubs are pushing to get that more towards that professional environment, if you like. So all players are pushing to try to do as much as possible so we can reach that level and try to breach that gap between top 3 and then everyone else in the league.
Yeah, well, 2 of the top 3 go up against each other this weekend. We've got Glasgow City and Celtic. Alison, a point between the 3 of them at the minute. As we say all the time, it comes down to these games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the games between one another are obviously important, but we have seen points dropped at other periods. Celtic have dropped points to Hearts, Rangers to Thistle. in the league, but I think inevitably there is huge interest on these games because something has to give, and of course Rangers would be the benefactors of that this weekend. Whatever gives at Petershill gives Rangers the opportunity to go and open up a wider gap, assuming of course that they take care of their own business against Hibs. But I think there'll be a lot of eyes on this one on Sunday. I think Glasgow City on their own turf can be fairly formidable. It's quite a small, tight pitch. It's quite a vocal crowd at Petershill. It'll be interesting to see just how Celtic fare against the reigning champions. I think you've seen Elena Saduku's side just find a bit of cohesion, a bit of form across recent weeks. Obviously getting into the game in the back of that win over Rangers, it really blew the title race wide open, and be interesting to see just how this one plays out. And of course everyone vying for the title, wanting to claim the championship, but second place still opens the door to Champions League football too, so I think that's a real consideration for teams as well.
Jo Potter actually said before the final took place, Bailley, that she would always rather be the team in front being chased. Is that the same with you? Do you have the mindset that way?
Yeah, I think if other teams are trying to push to your level, it makes you want to strive and push further, just to always have that gap, have your nose in front. So yeah, I think that definitely helps to then know that people are chasing after you, so then you can push even harder to keep your nose in front. Similar to Leanne Crichton, as part of the Motherwell coaching staff, Glasgow City have Leanne Ross, of course, who has been there, done it internationally at full time, won loads of titles as well. So she's got that winning mentality as well as her players. Yeah, and I think where you really noticed that was last season, just in the run-in. I think Glasgow City were very quiet about just going about their business, keeping their heads down. At one point it looked as though they were going to have a real wobble. You know, that 8-point gap was reined in right towards the end of the season, but I thought Leanne Ross was probably fairly significant in how it played out, and the fact that they went and claimed the title in such dramatic circumstances. But I think it is helpful to have players who are now in managerial positions, who understand the league, who understand the demands of the league. And although it's been a changing environment particularly across the last 4 or 5 seasons, I think of course it definitely helps to have that experience there. Definitely. And Bailley, just finally, will we have another photo finish come the end of the season? I think it's always exciting for the league, isn't it, if it does come to that. But the way everything's going at the moment, I think it will be very tight between the three. Well, thanks to Bailley, thanks to Alison. We'll be back next week with some more action to look forward to. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.